Boxingego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. So basically, Kell Brook appears dodgy when it comes to fighting Errol Spence Jr. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, we're working hard. Boxingego brand. Shout out to my dude Bakari. Pinned up a great article on the website. Link in the description. Boxingego.com. The future. Working hard. Putting out a lot of content. And honestly, the mission statement is what it's always been. New media. Taking over this boxing sport. And giving these fighters a fair shake. Now, in the case of Kell Brook, I really like Kell Brook. And I really don't even have to say this or do this. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that. I have videos up in case you guys were wondering. 2 years ago, Bika Darrell 2 rematch, Sean Porter Kell Brook predictions. I shouldn't have to babysit you guys. You guys can do your own research, right? But in that video 2 years ago, I was raving about how Kell Brook would beat Sean Porter, said it was a good fight, but I picked Kell Brook, and I was absolutely right. And at that point in time, a lot of Americans in the US hadn't really even heard of Kell Brook, and he certainly didn't have any names on the echelon of a Sean Porter, who was then an IBF champion. So that was a gamble. Some people, oh, you only picked the favorite. I don't know who the favorites are because I don't even care, and I'm not sports betting. I base it off of what I've seen, and I like Kell Brook's skill set. Fast forward to the future. This whole Errol Spence situation is so flagrant that they don't want to fight him unless it's an absolute last resort. And it's disappointing. And again, as Boxingego, we're going to strive to provide the best coverage and just factual opinions. This is not about hating this person. It's about uplifting and preserving the sport. And that's meaningful fights. I don't get it with these fighters. Everyone's like trying to do this Money Mayweather thing. And I'm not blaming Floyd because each fighter is entitled to do whatever they want with their career and their teams. But Floyd Mayweather, he busted his ass for 18 years, let's say. And then he got to a point where he can pick his fighters and make a lot of money and be on the Forbes list. And now it seems like no matter what fighters have been through with their personal journey, it seems like fighters are trying to do that. Like, oh, I'm an A-side. They just want to A-side somebody. Yeah, I'm bigger than that guy, so he has to listen to my terms. And you haven't done what Floyd's done. You're not Floyd. You haven't set the record Floyd set. You don't have the skill set of Floyd, a lot of these guys. So that's really redundant, trying to base your career and kind of pick and choose what fights for max dollars. This is prize fighting. I get it. I understand Kell Brook got a nice paycheck, and that has to be good. When I get a good YouTube paycheck, I am happy as well. But I also bust my ass, and I'm not going to duck and dodge around certain things. I just try to get the work done, be it in the gym, Monday mail day. All of this stuff is work, right? And I'm seeing more and more fighters where it seems like they want to maximize profit, and they're acting like this is some kind of science fair project or mathematic equation. This is very simple. You beat the people you're supposed to beat, the money will come, right? Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Angels screaming like, oh, you a bitch, and ponytail. It's a good fight. If Keith Thurman emerges, then he's the man. If Danny Garcia emerges and beats Keith Thurman, somebody's O has to go. They're the man. Danny Garcia's the man. Keith Thurman's the man. Somebody's going to be the man that night, March 4th, right? And that's going to catapult them. That might even lure Floyd Mayweather out of retirement for a 50th bout. I don't know. I'm not Floyd. But the point being is you fight the people you're supposed to fight. All that money and more money and the fame and the accolades and more fans will come. Kell Brook is an exceptional fighter, very skilled. I like the work he was doing with Gennady Golovkin. But in the case of Errol Spence Jr., he seems very skeptical. And the worst part about it in boxing that I've noticed is you'll get fighters who it's not like they're saying, oh, Errol Spence is the man. He's a good ass fighter, so we'll see. It's like they almost berate a fighter, but then make up all these reasons why they're not fighting that person. And those reasons, if you break it down, can easily be repelled and founded as that's nonsense, that's bullshit, right? They'll say things like, oh, he puts no asses in the seats. Nobody knows who he is. But you go to Premier Boxing Champ's website, on top of 6 million views live in his last fight with Leonard Bundu, like I'm looking at his highlight reels or highlights of his fights, 100K plus, 182,000. And more importantly is you got to look at the science of what people are saying and reverse engineer it and really think about it. If Kell Brook is saying people don't really know who he is, why are reporters asking you about him? Just think about that. You're saying people don't really know him. People don't really know you're mandatory. And see, that's another thing that rubs me the wrong way. It doesn't matter if they know him or not. He's your mandatory, right? So that's one thing. That's an issue in itself. But why would reporters be asking, why am I making videos like this if nobody knows him and nobody wants to see that fight, right? Why would they be asking you? That's how you can easily debunk what these fighters say. Like Donaire and Rigondeaux. Oh, nobody really knows Rigondeaux. Then why are people asking for the fight? Why are people making videos? Why are reporters even hounding you about that person? So obviously there is a need for it, or a market, or a group of people that want to see the fight, right? And it's all about what's the best for boxing. Now, shout out to Sky Sports. They did an interview with Eddie Hearn. He gave an update on Kell Brook versus Amir Khan negotiations. And it sounds like the same thing. Amir Khan is saying that he's the man and he's the bigger name and bigger star. And at one point, Amir Khan did an interview and he said, I'll fight Kell Brook after he fights Errol Spence Jr., right? So there's also rumors that Amir Khan, coming off a brutal CANELO knockout, wants a tune-up fight. And in the article, Eddie Hearn is saying, hey, we want to go straight at it. We heard Amir Khan wants a tune-up fight, which would be reasonable because he got brutally knocked out at a higher weight division. And some people tried to flip it. Oh, how can you say that Amir Khan deserves a tune-up, but Kell Brook doesn't? And they both moved up. Simple. Amir Khan doesn't have a mandatory that he's had for quite some time, right? If Amir Khan had a mandatory, then he'd be in the same boat. No one told you to go up and fight Canelo. That's the thing. Kell Brook knew before the fight that he had to fight this guy. This guy was creeping for his spot, right? So no one told you to fight Golovkin, go up and wait and all this. You chose to do that. You and your team, like, yeah, it's a good payday. We feel Golovkin's vulnerable. We can beat him. And you came up short. So that's your team's decision. So you got to live with that. You know what I'm saying? Everything that happened in that fight, you got to live with that. That's the decision you guys collectively made, right? It doesn't change the fact of the order of operations. And me, I just want to see guys get their fair shake. It is not right, the politics that we experience in boxing, where guys bust their ass and, you know what I mean, away from their... Errol Spence just had another kid recently, right? This dude doesn't even know when he's fighting next. He's trying to stay on the IBF route, and Kell Brook got all these extensions and medical extensions and like postponement and come back later DVR extensions and pause and all this stuff. And he's having to stay in shape for no reason, where he's just like in limbo. He just had a kid and stuff, you know what I mean? And he probably has to train because he doesn't want to get caught sleeping. Like after all this time he's been saying man down and title shot coming and things like that, right? Then you don't want to be caught with your pants down, so to speak, where you're not ready for the fight. So he has to stay disciplined during this process. So for me, I just want to see the people who are deserving get their opportunities that they've worked for. And fair is fair. And this is also a fight that will elevate boxing. And the funny thing with all this like selectiveness on who you want to fight, and Eddie Hearn saying he wants Kell to move up to 54, it's already a clear duck. But if he moves to 54, that's a clear duck, because the biggest problem I have with that is simple. You are trying to stick around for Amir Khan, and I get it. Okay, you'll make more money with Amir Khan. We're all in agreement. But that means you can somehow, some way make the weight, because you look at the Sky Sports article, they're pushing for an Amir Khan fight. You're pushing to fight a guy who's been knocked out. So that takes it out the window. If he couldn't make weight, then, and you know Amir Khan already said, I'm not fighting Kell Brook at 54 or 55. If he wants to fight with me, if it does happen, it has to happen at welterweight 147. So that shows right there that you have no alibi. You are willing to go to welterweight for somebody. So you can't just peek your head in for the people that you want to fight. It's just like Golovkin. No, I'm not fighting Andre Ward at 168, but I'll fight Chavez. But I'll fight Carl Froch. I'll take them at 168. That's a clear duck because people know there's a reason why. Why would you fight guys who are maybe bigger punchers, definitely more aggressive than Andre Ward in general or through the course of 12 rounds? And Chavez rehydrates probably more than Andre Ward. But you're willing to fight that, but you're not willing to fight Ward, who some people say, oh, he doesn't even hit that hard. It's because you know skills pay the bills and real recognizes real, right? You want to fight Amir Khan because it's a bigger money fight and you think you have a greater chance to beat him. Point blank, period. That's what it is. And it's like people are milking the game, trying to take advantage of these little things. Like, oh, if I fight him, then I'll get this purse and this payday. And you can't do that. You want to fight Amir Khan just because you think you have a greater chance on beating him. And I don't think that's right, especially when people have been waiting in line for their opportunity at you. And if you fight Errol Spence Jr., you know what the situation reminds me a lot of? It reminds me of the situation with Jermall Charlo and Julian J. Rock Williams. Almost identical if you think about it. You had a guy like Jermall Charlo. People were saying he was ducking Julian J. Rock Williams. Williams was tearing through the ranks. He had good power. He was stopping guys. And he was looking like a real certified skilled threat, right? Undefeated too. And he was like, oh, come on, Charlo. Fight me or drop the belt. Vacate, turkey. And he said that post-fight and all this, right? And people started buying into it. Like, okay, Jermall Charlo is afraid. And it's funny, they both have the IBF belt, right? He's afraid to defend that IBF belt. Yada, yada, yada. The fight gets made. Richard Schaefer puts it on Ringstar Promotions. Shout out to the MPBC. And Charlo pretty much dominates. He knocks down Julian J. Rock Williams, and then he ends up stopping him in a highlight reel vicious fashion with the uppercut, right? If Kell Brook is the man, you think you could beat Errol Spence, and you're saying that he's Jeff Lacey 2.0, then do what Charlo did and shut up all the critics. Now you notice nobody's saying that Charlo is ducking Julian J. Rock Williams or really ducking anybody because he put on a sensational performance. It only helps and enhances his aura, his resume, his presence. I haven't heard anyone saying anything bad about him because they knew he stepped up to a certifiable threat, his mandatory, and people said he was afraid and he handled business. So if Kell Brook, if he goes and beats Errol Spence, then it is what it is. He's the better man. And now the Amir Khan fight is even bigger. But they know the threat level, so they don't even want it to get to that, and they just want to discount Errol Spence Jr. Again, if people don't know who Errol Spence Jr. is, then why are reporters asking you that? More and more people asking. We didn't ask you about, hey, what about fighting Golovkin? You offered that information. Kell Brook's team, they're the ones that say, oh, we'll fight Golovkin at 157, Golovkin, right? I don't even really see many people. I'm in the US, but I don't see many people even requesting the Amir Khan fight at this point. He just got brutally knocked out. But I do hear the name Kell Brook and Errol Spence Jr. So you can't use that excuse anymore of, who is this guy? Nobody knows him. Then why are they asking you about him nonstop, right? There's no way you can make sense of that. And again, a lot of these fighters, they're trying to teeter gently and stuff like that. If you do what you're supposed to be doing, you really don't lose any stock. Even if Kell Brook lost to Errol Spence Jr., you just lost to Golovkin. It's not like you have a perfect record anyway, right? We've already seen you get stopped at this point. And ultimately, if you put up a good fight, you don't lose stock. Sean Porter is a perfect example of this. Looks like he's willing to fight anyone. He fought Devin Alexander when he was a champion. He beat him, right? He fought Kell Brook, came up short, but he defended his belt against another skilled, undefeated guy who was taller than him. And it's not like he clearly lost like I predicted in my prediction video 2 years ago, right here. He clearly lost, but he didn't get dogged where he was just like out of the fight. I think he did get hurt in the fight. I liked Kell Brook's jab. I liked how he clinched to kind of calm the roughhousing down that Sean Porter does and to kind of neutralize it. He was getting headbutted and shit. And he had a good showing, but it wasn't like Sean Porter was just out of there and, quit on the stool or something, right? And then Sean Porter fights Keith Thurman, another fight. Some people had Porter winning, some people had Thurman winning. he lost on the judges' scorecards. But again, Sean Porter, listen to his name, is still ringing bells. People still want to see him fight top level guys, Birdos or whoever, Pacquiao, because he did not lose any stock, because he's testing himself and he's still putting on good showings. No one is, to this point, Broner, Kell Brook, his fight with Thurman, nobody has just severely dogged him where it was just a one-sided Mayweather-Canelo beatdown, right? So that's what these fighters got to remember. You don't really lose much in losing to top competition. If Joshua comes up short versus Klitschko, I mean, you lost to a legend who has way more experience than you. If Klitschko loses, I mean, shout out to him for taking the Joshua fight, because Joshua, I mean, I don't know too many people that just really want to fight him. I mean, he's going to get a good paycheck, but Joshua's looking like a killer. All knockouts, Diesel in shape, right? So, I mean, the 50-50 fights that are supposed to happen, I really strongly believe fighters don't really lose. I mean, you can get knocked out and stuff, and that's bad, and you might take a psychological hit, but in terms of the eyes of the fans, people still give you credit for taking the challenge. But this stuff, it just looks dodgy, and it looks like it makes people skeptical. Like, and on, like I said, on top of that, these fighters don't give the person an iota of credit. You're like, oh, Errol Spence is good, but nobody knows him. So you can't give someone credit and then throw shade immediately after. Like I've said it throughout this video, Kell Brook is a good fighter, but you got to take care of your mandatory business, especially when you fought tons of mandatories and we didn't care, or you didn't care if the fans cared who Jojo Dan, who knows him, and things like that. But now all of a sudden, like, let me check Jojo Dan's videos, see what kind of views he gets. 10,000. Look, it doesn't even, his name doesn't even pop up. His name pops up with anime, right? He fought Jared Swift Hurd, got knocked out. 9,000 views, 18,000. But nobody knows Errol Spence Jr. in his Premier Boxing Champion videos had like 100,000 or more. You know what I'm saying? So you can't say that. Kevin Bezier, like, oh, nobody knows Spence. Well, who knows Kevin Bezier? I don't really know much about him. And this is probably, it has high views, but it's probably because Kell Brook is in it. Bezier Lawson, 53. Bezier Lawson highlights, 12,000. You know what I'm saying? You can't say nobody knows this man, but people are asking you about it. So for me, I just want Kell Brook to do what's right and do what he's been doing. Defend against a mandatory. But this time it happens. It just so happens that this is the best mandatory that you've had come up in rankings and up on that mandatories list. And again, pursuing Amir Khan, it sounds like it's hassle. It doesn't sound like he wants to necessarily jump in there. They're saying he wants a tune-up. It has to be at 147. Your team wants you to move to 54. It shouldn't take this long to negotiate if two people really want to fight. So to me, it sounds like Amir Khan might have other plans immediately, and I don't blame him. He just got knocked out, right? But it seems Kell Brook's team is insistent on making welterweight for him. So if you can make welterweight for him, why not make it for the guy who has more steam and is undefeated? Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you share the video, like the video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, is Ego signing off.